this video I'm gonna show you how I built a beautiful low-tech aquascape for blue jelly shrimps with this nice Buddha statue. So stay tuned. Guys, this will be an absolute low-tech aquascape, and my goal is to show you that you can even set up a beautiful aquascape with very simple technical equipment and under unfavorable conditions. You are probably wondering why unfavorable conditions. Guys, the reason is that this aquarium will not be positioned with the wider side facing forward, but with the shorter side. This makes the setup and the layout much more complicated. By the way, this is a 45-liter aquarium which I will be using. Guys, if you want to build something similar, just use a 30-liter or 8-gallon cube or larger. I have to build in this orientation because otherwise I won't be able to fit the tank into the rack later. I have already attached a back background to the side panes and the back. This prevents technical equipment and other things from being visible outside the aquarium. Guys, my goal for this build is to create a scape which can grow and thrive under low-tech conditions, which ideally integrates a Buddha statue, which hides the technical equipment such as a filter as good as possible, which provides ideal conditions for the Neocaridina shrimps later, and which of course looks beautiful. So let's go straight into the build. I start with filling in the substrate. For this build I will use a combination of nutrient-rich base layer and black sand. Let's start with approximately 3 cm or an inch of nutrient-rich substrate. Okay, I think this should be fine. The plants, such as crypts that I will later add to the aquarium, will be happy about these nutrients. Crypts are quite easy to keep, but they absorb nutrients primarily through the soil and benefit greatly from the nutrient-rich substrate. Guys, that's why I want to add even more nutrients to ensure a long-term nutrient supply. Therefore I just crumble up some root tablets first. I finally sprinkle the powder evenly over the substrate. Okay, that should be enough for the nutrient supply for now. Let's cover this unsightly nutrient substrate with a decorative sand. For this build I want to use JBL Zanzibar Dark Sand. It's a black fine sand and I think it will fit quite well into the overall concept. In addition to that, the shrimps will love the fine sand. The appearance is a bit deceptive. The sand looks very light when dry, but as soon as it is wet it becomes much darker. I fill in a generous amount of sand and slope it up toward the back of the tank. Guys, although the scape will be rather unorthodox, this slope still increases the perception of depth, and the background plants will also benefit from a higher layer of substrate. Last but not least, a little cosmetic work near the front window. Okay guys, the substrate is ready so far, and in the next step I will place the filter in the aquarium, and then we can start with the hardscape. I am using one of my standard sponge filters for this build, and the left corner of the tank is perfect for it. Guys, I want to use black lava rock for this scape. You might be thinking, oh, that's a lot of black, but in combination with the lush green plants It will look really cool and give the whole scape a little bit of a mystical character later. And of course it will also highlight the color of the shrimps. So let's create something awesome with the rocks. My idea is to create a kind of canyon in which the Buddha statue will stand later. I start with the positioning of the largest stone and I'm trying to create a natural looking cliff. It is always a lot of trial and error and usually takes relatively long time to find a layout that you like, so that you don't have to watch me moving the stones around in real time. I will let the time-lapse work for us. Guys, if I'm wrong and you like to watch me moving the stones around, let me know in the comments. Okay guys, this is my preliminary result, with which I'm already quite pleased. To be honest, it looks a bit massive, but it has to be, otherwise you won't see any of the hardscape later when the plants are in the aquarium. To ensure that the smaller rocks stay in place when I put the plants in and I place the aquarium on the shelf later, I prefer to glue them down. I use the tissue cyanoacrylate superglue method for this. This connection is very solid and absolutely safe for fish and plants. Okay guys, this is a Buddha statue and the highlight of the aquarium. Let's find a nice place for it in the tank. Okay, that looks pretty good I think. That was quite easy and that is also the only position that really makes sense. To make the whole layout look a little bit wilder and more natural, we definitely need some wood. Spider wood is ideal for this, because if you place it well on the stones, it looks as if the roots are growing over the rocks. Personally, I also like the contrast between the dark stones and the light colored wood. However, it has to be said that the wood will darken considerably once it is waterlogged. Okay guys, I like it quite a bit, but we definitely need a root in the front area. I think this piece of wood is very suitable for this purpose and it looks like a dead tree stump. Okay, that looks pretty cool guys, but to keep the roots where I want them, we definitely have to glue them down. Otherwise, they will float to the surface when we fill the tank later. Just like with the stones, I used the tissue cyanoacrylate superglue method. The hardscape is now almost finished, and to finalize it, I thought about creating a path to the statue with a few slates. Okay guys, that's a little bit like the idea I had in my head. It's always fun to see how the idea slowly takes shape. But let's bring the aquarium to life and turn it into a jungle. The good thing is you don't need high-end equipment to keep beautiful plants. There are so many beautiful plants which are quite undemanding, so here we go. Guys, I'm starting with the epiphyte plants. And this Anubias nana, I think it fits quite well here in the corner behind the statue. That was my largest epiphyte plant. But I still have several smaller Anubias, Nana Petite and Bucephalandra Kedagang. These plants are absolutely undemanding and look great. Guys, always keep the plants moist. You want to prevent them from drying out and taking damage. Okay, that's not bad at all. Now it's time to plant the middle area, and I have chosen a few nice crypts for this. Let's start with the largest one, the Crypt Venti Brown. And as contrast to the rather brownish Crypt Venti, I plant a few lush green Crypt Green Gecko. There is always a risk that the crypts, which are usually grown in the immersed state, will degenerate underwater and then form new underwater leaves. That's why you often see people cutting off the immersed leaves before planting, so that the plant can focus on forming new leaves right from the start. It is always easier to plant in wet substrate. As I still have to carry the aquarium later, I can't fill it with too much water and I only moisten the substrate. Guys, for the foreground I'm using slow growing plants like Liliopsis brasiliensis and Cryptocoryne parva. Both plants are grass-like plants and are relatively easy to keep. By the way, Cryptocoryne parva is the smallest crypt of all. To make the foreground a little more interesting, I add some crushed lava rock. I took these stones from an established aquarium, and they already bring a portion of beneficial bacteria with them. For the background, I mainly use plants from other aquariums. I simply bundle the cut plants parts with a ceramic ring. You get these rings for free with almost every potted plant. This method makes planting much easier in my opinion. Okay, dear people, I've planted all the plants. So far I'm quite happy with the result. Let's see what the tank will look like when it is filled with water. But first of all I have to carry the tank to its final location. Okay guys, here we go. The tank has arrived at its final location. Let's start with the filling process. There we go. The aquarium is filled. The water is slightly murky, but that's mainly down to me, as I am always too lazy to wash the sand in advance. I also had to do some minor cosmetic work because the sand was swirled up a bit during the filling. But fortunately, nothing was uprooted. Before I start the cycling phase, I'm starting the filter and I'm adding a few ramshorn snails for some bioload. Okay guys, 2 weeks have passed and the aquarium has matured really quickly this time. I have a nice package full of blue jelly shrimps here, and I hope the shrimps have survived the transport well. I will slowly acclimatize the shrimps to the water in the tank and then transfer them to their new home. But first we will take another look at what has happened in the aquarium in the meantime. Okay guys, this is the final result after approximately 2 weeks. As it was to be expected, the plants have not really grown in the meantime. They first have to get used to the new conditions and most of them are slow growing anyway. Some of the crypt leaves that have grown immersed are slowly turning yellow and will probably be shed soon. Apart from that, all the plants look really healthy. This fungus or white bacterial slime has once again formed on the spider wood. This happens quite often with this wood during the cycling phase and is not really an issue. It usually disappears by itself or is simply eaten by the inhabitants such as snails and shrimps. Shrimp is a good keyword. The blue jelly shrimps are now acclimatized and we can put them in their new home. So let's go! And here they are. Don't they look great? I think this bluish transparent coloring is just awesome. Like the snowball shrimps, they look a bit like little ghosts when they float through the tank. By the way, all the shrimps survived the transport well, and as far as I can tell, they are scurrying around happily in the tank. And they have already taken the Buddha statue to their hearts. Some of the females already have the so-called golden settle. This means that they will soon be ready to be fertilized. Now I just have to hope that I have enough males. At the moment it looks like there is a clear surplus of females. However, as the tank is densely planted in places, I can of course only see a few animals at a time. Guys, let's check again whether I have achieved all the personal goals I set myself at the beginning of the project. I wanted to create a scape which can grow and thrive under low-tech conditions. All the plants I used are not really demanding and I've already used them successfully in very similar tanks. So I think that's done. I also wanted to integrate the Buddha statue. The Buddha statue has found a nice place, so I would say tick in the box. In addition to that, I didn't want to see the technical equipment like the filter. The filter is barely visible. You can only see the outlet pipe slightly if you look very closely. So for me, this goal has been achieved. I wanted to create a tank which provides ideal living conditions for Neocaridina shrimps. I think the shrimps will feel home here. There is fine substrate, a lot of plants and hiding places, and plenty of hardscape to graze on, so that the water parameters correspond to the general recommendations for Neocaridina shrimps. And my last goal was, I wanted to create a beautiful tank. Personally, I'm really pleased how the tank turned out. Really like the look of the sunken temple and how it is slowly being reclaimed by nature. Only the Buddha statue persists and merges with the nature around it. For me, my personal goal has been achieved, but please let me know what you think and write it down in the comments. In this video I set up a cool tank for Bloody Mary shrimps, so check it out next. Thank you for watching guys and see you in the next video. Bye bye.